Pukekohe, but you get it actually gives you goosebumps when you get those three. Plus, we heard from Radicic, Murph, and Stevie Richards about what they did growing up, and it is a little bit like what we then incur a little bit back in Australia of circuits that we are very familiar with and everything else. So it's great to see all that depth of history that they talk about.
And we keep that going now with the Archibald's historic touring cars, and haven't they turned the crowds on this weekend? And there is the king of Pukekohe, Greg Murphy, out on the track in the Whittaker's Peanut Slab entry. Won yesterday's race by 0.2 of a second, and I'm sure there's some muscles there that have woken up that haven't been used for many, many a year. He's thoroughly enjoyed his time out there aboard this Ford Sierra. He's been taking on Michael Lyons, who's been out there in the Nissan Primera, the 1998 spec car that was run by Team Dynamics in the British Touring Car Championship. But those two guys have been the standouts, but there's so many cool cars in this category. Oh,
absolutely, and I've actually unfortunately missed that era of driving a turbo car. So for Murph, it's obviously a little bit familiar for him because he did drive this car many years ago. And I loved it when he was talking about yesterday. I've got a little switch down here. It's high and low. It's all about the boost. So I think that, again, we'll see him off the line, which they're rolling around now. They get a rolling start, but he off the line, I think, will out-drag the Nissan Primera down into turn one. And these two have had great battles over the last couple of races here this weekend.
Murph, this is a pretty special moment coming up. You're starting from the front row once again, but one last chance to drive around the old girl.
Yeah, mate, I can't wait for this. This is an incredible day to be in front of an amazing crowd here at Pukekohe. I'm, a little bit emotional, mate. Hard to fathom that this is the last day we're going to have an event such as this. Last time Supercars are going to be at Pukekohe. I'm just really honoured and happy that I can be here driving and enjoy the moment for what it is.
Hey Murph, you're going to finish it off with a high, with a win. You've had a great battle there with Michael Lyons.
Listen, we'll see what happens, Lounsey. Michael's a great competitor. We've got a couple other fast ones behind him. Hoping Richo can get in on the action as well, to be honest.
Go get a Murph. We're going racing here for 10 laps in the final race, and the crowd up as one and saluting as the cars make their way through turn number one. They've been taking it nice and easy all weekend, and rightly so. Some of these cars are priceless, aren't they? And it's going to be an incredible event. Looks like they're going to pull this up here now because of the car before the start. So all that build up, and now we'll get to do it one more time. Wasn't that great though? The crowd was cheering even before we got to the start line there. So car 100 coming to a stop. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that the fans that have come through yesterday, or actually from Friday onwards, has been fantastic. And as I said, they're as passionate as we are coming back here. And I was actually thinking that we might have blown Murph's start by talking to him. We were talking to him all the way down, and that never happens. And I thought, maybe we've interrupted his concentration. But now they've got the red flag out, so we'll keep you up to date with what's actually going on.
Well, we've got him back on the line here. So a bit of an anticlimax build there. Did you see the crowd there, Murph, on the left-hand side as you were coming around from the start? They stood up as one.
Which is amazing. I'm blown away by the support here this weekend. But what it does show is just the enthusiasm for motorsport in this country, enthusiasm for supercars. The people here in New Zealand are just petrol head crazy. So what do you say? I mean, we need to obviously make sure that we continue to bring the show to town, don't we, for the future, and I know that's going to happen. So we'll be able to keep them entertained, and next year as well with Gen 3, that's going to be phenomenal.
Murph, how are the arms? We were talking about, obviously this is the last race for you for this weekend, but how is the Bathurst prep and getting those arm pump?
Yeah, mate. I tell you, this is the best workout, Lounsey, that I reckon I've had in preparation for the Bathurst return, the wild card. I tell you, I haven't worked my forearms and my biceps so hard in the last 12 months. So, mate, they said, what kind of power steering does the Sierra have? And I said, it's my biceps, mate. It's my biceps.
A lot of personal trainers are going to hate hearing that because they're all in training for Bathurst. You jump behind the wheel of a Ford Sierra and you're the best condition ever.
Mate, no formation. I'm just getting the information here on what's going on. So we're going to be up and going again very soon. There was a car stopped over the other side of the track there, fellas, that they obviously wanted to get rid of. But we should be back underway pretty soon.
So Murph, that switch you were talking about yesterday, that little high and low, what's it setting on? High?
Can you see it down here or not with one of the cameras? Probably a little bit too low. I go out on low, Lounsey, because, with cold tyres on this year, I want to make sure I don't look like a dick and rotate it straight away at the pit lane. So I'm on the low boost setting when I go out and start warming up, and then coming up over the hill, I brave it and I switch it through to the 550 horsepower map. I need it to get past Michael too down the front straight.
We'll go back to that last shot, looking at the dash here. You might want to take us through some of those dials, because for a lot of the viewers, they wouldn't remember analog dash.
Mate, I haven't looked at it the whole time, to be honest. There's no shift lights. We've got a water temperature gauge, so that's working and it's getting hot while we're sitting here. Then we've got fuel pressure, oil pressure. That's a rev counter, that's a boost gauge, but mate, I'm telling you, I'm hanging on that hard. I've not really got a lot of time to pay much attention to it. So everything else, I mean, that's what I called this car. It is so analog, right? We're living in this digital age, and that's what I'm loving about actually getting back aboard this car, is just the simplicity and just the simple stuff that's in it. This gearbox, boys, is just sublime. Like an HPAT gearbox is actually a synchro box, which you caught me miss yesterday, by the way. The only gear I missed yesterday, and you caught me doing it. But it's just beautiful. It's just such a nice shift. Look at the size. Can you see the size of the throttle pedal?
It's massive, yeah.
I can't miss it.
That's an old rest pedal, isn't it?
But I've got to go back to heel and toe, which is a bit of an interesting trait. But yeah, the pedals are very well spaced, and the throttle pedal's enormous. So look at that, beautiful.
Murph, now we've missed, unfortunately, seeing John Bow out there because he had some issues for qualifying. Have you actually been talking to him about how good these cars were back in the sort of 80s, 90s?
Well, he was completely shocked when he got in it. I mean, his muscle memory started to come back, but I think he was shaking his head and just disbelief of what was so normal back in the 80s and 90s, And he got a bit of a fright coming onto the back straight one lap, he said, when he sort of got on the gas and she boosted up and nearly got away from him. So I think he had a little bit of an undie change after that one. But it's a shame he's not out here, mate, because it would have been awesome to see that beautiful DJR car running around with John Bow behind the wheel.
We know how excited he was to get over here and just at least be a part of this very last event. Of course, this car you drove back in 1992 with Kane Scott for Mark Petch Motorsport, and obviously the first car you raced around here in a touring car.
Yes, it is, and December this year will be 30 years, so yeah, it's quite timely, isn't it? I didn't really plan it this way. I knew I was going to be driving this car earlier in the year, but we didn't know Pukekohe was coming to a close, so it's quite fitting.
Well, we'll let you settle in, mate. Enjoy this. It's going to be an enjoyable ride. We'll come back to the end.
Thanks, boys. Talk to you soon.
Greg Murphy carrying out in-car camera here with the Archibald historic touring cars as the field of 28 get back into the rows of two with a premature start. We'll get some laps in now, at least, with the 100 car being towed away and out of harm's way. So, as it's been all weekend, Murph and Lyons have been the standout performers. We've seen Stephen Richards start from the rear of the field in his Nissan Primera that has charged his way up into the top six in yesterday's race. Conrad Timms is out there in that beautiful Valvoline Ford Mondeo. And Paul Radisich back behind the wheel of the Lindsay O'Donnell Volvo S40, just to the side, the back shot there in car number 40. We'll try and pan through some of these cars during the race, but it's a rolling start and the crowd get to see it one more time as this historic field, the historic venue, go green here in New Zealand.
Look at the acceleration on Murph, that Ford Sierra. Once it gets into boost, you can hear that little turbo whistle as he crests now through turn one, takes the lead. How's the little Mazda? The old Alan Moffat replica running around in position 3 there, that rotary engine that screams to 1,000 RPM.
And a whole fleet of BMWs right behind that as well as they settle into a group. There is the Volvo S40, Paul Radisich in the field. Good to have him out there. We saw him yesterday, but he's just taking his time, getting used to that Lindsay O'Donnell car. He's side by side with Stephen Richards. There's Conrad Timms just behind in the first of 3 Mondeos and first of 2 cars that Kelvin Burt drove in the field back in the days of the British Touring Car Championship.
Great to see the difference in speeds there. Stevie Richards just going there around turn 6, and the difference in speeds where the Ford Sierra definitely got that straight line handling sorted, and again Murph takes the lead. off the start line, and we'll see what Michael Lyons can do, because these guys have been going toe-to-toe as this race unfolds. The difference in the tyre life and the way that you can see there already is right on the back of Murph, and he's trying to go around the outside of the last corner.
This will be brave around the outside. That's meant to be half a spirited demonstration, but that would have got the crowd at the ITM Mountain up on their feet. Murph goes back to the lead here at the end of the first lap. This beautiful black and gold peanut slab Sierra that raced at Bathurst on 3 occasions in 88, 89 and 90. They put a margin back to Brett Stevens and another Sierra that raced in the hands of Kevin Waldock back in the days in the Playscape Racing colours.
There's that Nissan Godzilla all-wheel drive, that little Mazda. You can see how nimble it is on the exit of turn 4, but again, just won't have that straight line speed. You can see both Sierra and Godzilla. Once they get those turbos wound up, away they go.
They're out of here.
How good is this? Again, it brings you back to when you were growing up watching these. Jimmy Richards, would have been probably Tony Longhurst and all those guys running around.
Also means we're getting old, but that's another story. Great to have a lot of the genuine cars as well. We've had cars from the Australian Super Touring Championship days, and of course the British Touring Car Championship was so brutal, wasn't it, back in the 90s? Expensive cars, but cool racing.
And it was one of those things that you grew up and you were thinking, how are they going to better these cars? The evolution of race cars, and you look into these, and we saw at the start there, Murph's under attack. Hopefully he gets that turbo wound up as he does. This simplicity of the analog gauges to what we now rely on, the Motec. So it's really interesting to see when you go back and you backdate what the cars were back then, and the H-pattern gearbox. And Murph again just takes a nice little exit out of here, and you get this wound up. That poor old Nissan's got nothing. You see there, look, Murph just looking in the rear vision mirror, saying thank you, Michael. Have another crack a bit later on.
I'm sure he'll be back. In car looking back from Murph's number 2 Ford Sierra on the way down here to turn number 5. The Lions Premier just behind. It was built by Team Dynamics, the 100 plus alloy wheels livery they ran for Matt Neal in the British Touring Car Championship. If you look back there, you get flashbacks of the 90s, don't you? Looking from the rear shot as he dives down the inside here at the Husqvarna hairpin. And Murph will do the chasing this time on their way down. Look at the wheel work.
It's fantastic. No wonder he's got arm pump. You can see how much he bounces. I think they probably got the same shocks that they had back then as well. You can see how much he's bouncing over these bumps in the last corner. But that Nissan there is just so nimble across the top of that crest. This is where Murph's got to use all that 550 horsepower to try and close it up, because once we get down here, you can see again that approach. Murph takes a really narrow entrance to turn 1. Huggett uses a little bit of that inside curve as we look a little bit further back down now the order. That Volvo S40 there looks really nice in the way that they've presented that as well. Again, I'm just blown away by over here in New Zealand how well they do prepare their cars.
Probably 2 of my favourite cars in this shot here. A little bimmer at the front, but the Volvo and that Valvoline Mondeo just behind. I've got that car at home in my collection. It's so cool to see it in real life here running this weekend. And Paul Radicic keen to steer this car that Lindsay O'Donnell purchased a few years ago. Had a lot of history in Australia back in the day as well, but was built for the 97 British Touring Car Championship, and keeping up with the trend of that era as he sweeps around the outside of the BMW. It was then shipped out to Australia in 98 for Jim Richards to use in the Australian Championship for the Volvo team, and then spent 99 in the hands of Mark Adderton. So a bit of history on both sides of the world here, and in its original livery that it ran back in the Australian days, as these guys run down the bottom of the top 10.
And you were saying before that this is a demonstration race, but they're not. The drivers, typical drivers, you put a helmet on anyone and they take all that away. This is a full-blown ego. We want to win.
You can try and cover it over as much as you like. Demonstration, spirited demonstration, display. These guys out here, they go racing. And why not? We're talking about one of the V8 Supercars out there in the field. It's the Austin McKinley ex-Chris Smurden car from the day that he drove with British touring car expert and great commentator today, Charlie Cox at Bathurst back in the 90s, and that's the original livery they ran at the last race in 1999. Of course, the South Australian was a privateer in the series for many, many years. So something for everybody out there today.
I can only just imagine the drivers going around this circuit knowing that this is their last race for the weekend, but also their last race that they'll get to do around this circuit. We keep talking about how great this track is. There's that Jag. And that again brings back memories of Tom Walkinshaw. You can see the TWR Jag head banner across the top of that windscreen. That unique sound of that engine as it's filing around. But again, this circuit is just wonderful. As drivers, we all love it because it's such a challenging track. The bumps, the curves, the different corners, this being turn 8, really the slowest corner on the track.
But last lap, obviously, with that stoppage we had, is going to cut a few laps off here, but they've had some fun this weekend. That wasn't too fun for the RX-7 right in front of Stephen Richards. Heart rate's probably gone up 40 or 50 beats through the turn 3-4 chicane there.
And how was that? Look at the generation difference in age of the cars, but they're both almost identical as they're screaming down the back straight.
Hear the whine of the Primera and the RX-7 as they go side by side down into the chicane. This was the addition to the course, and we came back in 2013, the 4th generation of this historical Pukekohe Park Raceway in New Zealand. The Lions, looks like he's got this race under control with just over 2 seconds, and here he comes around to complete the weekend in the Archibald's historic touring cars. The man has spent a lot of time in historic Formula One competition, will pick up the win. And the final race to the roar of the crowd here today. Murph home for second. It'll be Rogers home for third today ahead of Armstrong and Stephen Richards inside the top 5. In a final salute from these cars that have spent many, many years wowing fans worldwide.
And again, you can just hear the crowd. They all appreciate the racing that's going on, and we all here knowing that it will be the last time you see cars racing around this circuit, and the appreciation from the crowd is unbelievable. As Murph said, he can hear them inside, and that's as a driver, it's a great feeling knowing that support's out there. And again, this nice, beautifully presented Jag, you hear that engine note cresting that last corner. And again, the crowd has been huge over the last 3 or 4 days.
Very receptive, they're very vocal, the Kiwis, and they're witnessing something very special here as we build up for a big day at the ITM Auckland Super Sprint. Lines from Murphy, Rogers home for third ahead of Richards, Armstrong, Brett Stevens down in position 5. And along the cars that just had some fun out there enjoying their last look around this beautiful Pukekohe Park Raceway. They've been a great hit, and great to see them back on the racetrack where they belong. The Archibald's historic touring cars, just part of this huge support program we have at the ITM Auckland Super Sprint. Plenty more still to come here today. We're getting set for the Toyota 86 is not too far away, but our next stop, the Repco Bathurst 1000 tickets on sale now from Ticketek. If you can't make it, the Bathurst channel starts 24/7 Monday, October 3, Fox Sports Channel 503. We've got some really special packages, some old races out there, and plenty to see from Mount Panorama. A break, more still to come here from New Zealand.